You have several computers, so when you leave home, you lock the door and set the alarm. To deter potential burglars, there's still a fierce dog left behind, ready to tear apart anyone who crosses the threshold without your permission. After leaving the building, you make sure the door is properly closed, because God forbid someone puts a flyer in your mailbox. Our neighborhoods, hallways, and even apartments are monitored. Thanks to this, we feel safer. You care so much about the safety of your home, garage, even your basement, but how much do you care about the security of your computer or smartphone? After all, they contain enough data to cause you so much trouble, both financially and reputation-wise, that it would be hard to recover from it in any way. All it takes is for one silly photo or one stupid video to leak from your device, and you could get an email demanding a certain amount of money in exchange for silence. Every day, hundreds of thousands of people online are blackmailed in this way, which is why it's so important to secure our devices with a code and use unique passwords. You probably already have your computer and phone locked with a tough password and think nothing can happen to you. But do you know that your internet provider, the one you're using to watch this video, knows exactly what you're doing right now, knows how many tabs you have open in your browser, and even what and when is updating in the background on your device? Your internet provider is required to keep a full record of your activity for a year, everything you've done online during that time. My God, do you even remember which sites you visited yesterday? A week ago? Or maybe 5 years ago? Well, if you don't remember, just ask your provider. They'll definitely know. Because you see, another problem is that the providers of this data might never delete it at all. And in order to even be able to compete in this, let's face it, really tough market, and to somehow try to lower the prices for ever faster internet connections, they sometimes quietly sell this data, even your data. Now imagine a situation where you're standing at a bus stop. It's a noisy street, you've got headphones in, and behind you some guy is reading your entire conversation. That instantly throws you off balance. After all, this guy has crossed every line and, well, it's just not appropriate. The urge to punch him would probably be totally justified here, but what that guy could read in that moment is just a drop in the ocean compared to what your own internet provider knows about you. Wait, what? And that stranger at the bus stop pretty much won't be able to, or probably won't even want to, use the information they've learned about you in any way. But organizations that bought a package with your logs, with your data, can really use it very effectively. That's why in this video, in a light and easy way, I'll show you what you need to do to encrypt network traffic on all your devices. The partner of this episode is NordVPN. This is a very good sign because NordVPN Sport is one of the most recognizable and, according to what professional security websites claim, it's one of the best, if not the best, choices. This is Paweł, and I invite you to a short but informative video that will protect you from the dangers on the internet. You've probably already come across the saying that privacy on the internet disappeared a long time ago. That's why many people who discovered that there's something called private mode or so-called incognito mode in their browser started to deeply believe that thanks to it, they can browse websites safely while remaining 100% anonymous. Unfortunately, this mode works completely differently than most people think. It doesn't provide anonymity, let alone security. The only thing it does is that it doesn't save your browsing history, nor does it save cookies on the device you're using to browse the web. However, your internet provider, your school, or your boss can still see your entire browsing history. The data is saved on all those mega servers you've probably heard about more than once. But don't fool yourself if your parent or anyone else logs into the home router. Yes, even a seemingly ordinary home router like that. It also stores logs containing the full addresses and subpages of your supposedly private browsing, along with information about which device you used to do it. Private mode is not, and in fact never really was, what many people think it is. It only applies to the device you're browsing the internet from. The rest of the world can clearly see what you did, how long you did it, and exactly what interested you the most there. Fortunately, there's a perfect way to make all this traffic invisible, whether it's on your home router, school servers, or your boss's servers. A way that also prevents your provider from figuring out what you were really doing or what you connected to. Okay, it's actually simpler than it might seem. All you need to do is encrypt the traffic between your device and the VPN server so that your website requests and all other data go through the VPN service provider instead of your internet provider. This tunnel is, of course, fully encrypted, which means it can't be read without a special key. You've probably also heard many times not to use public Wi-Fi networks. However, a VPN is a tool that increases your security even when using open networks, no matter if you're at the airport, at the train station, in a hotel, or even in a shopping mall. When you use tunneling, you can safely enjoy free Wi-Fi, even on networks without a password. Using a VPN provider in some situations is not only recommended, but sometimes even necessary. For example, people living abroad are usually blocked from accessing TVP VOD, TVN Player, and many other similar platforms. However, by connecting through a VPN server, all this content will no longer be blocked for you. The same situation also applies the other way around. If you're in Poland, you can get full access to the Netflix library from the United States, which is almost twice as rich as the one normally shown to people in Poland. There are quite a few advantages to using VPN services, and we'll talk about the most important ones today. But first, let's check out what the NordVPN app looks like and how it works. Although the interface isn't in Polish, in my opinion it's simple and clear enough that even someone who doesn't speak English will be able to manage. Unless, of course, someone prefers German or another available language. Anyway, if you appreciate convenience and don't feel like getting into the details, all you need to do is right-click on the Nord icon and activate it with that big slider. This way, it will connect to the fastest server, but if you want to dig deeper, you can activate the full interface here. About 90% of it is reserved, as you can see, for the map that lists all the servers. You can zoom in, zoom out, and move it around as you like. It only takes one click, and the connection to the selected server will be established instantly. I would say this is still a moderately advanced way of choosing. The advanced options are located here on the left. Here we have a list of all countries arranged alphabetically, but you should pay attention to the additional menu for selecting individual servers, which we can expand by clicking on these three little dots right next to the country name. By default, the application will connect us to the one it considers the fastest, but if we want, we can experiment. As you can see, there are plenty of servers in Poland itself, and all of them are sorted according to the currently reported load. However, we also have specialized servers here and different types of connections. The first one is double VPN, and as the name suggests, when you choose this option, your traffic will go through two different servers. First, we choose the country we want to connect to, then another server, which can be located in a completely different part of the world. You should remember that this kind of double encryption and the greater distance between servers will, of course, reduce connection speed and result in higher latency. In my opinion, there's no need to use this type of connection, at least not on a daily basis, because it's quite an extreme approach, unless you really care about erasing all traces. Another form of connection that maximizes security and anonymity is Onion over VPN. In this case, the traffic is routed through the Tor network. Combining these technologies is a more complex topic, and explaining it in this material would definitely take us too much time. But to put it briefly, this is used for really serious activities. Someone familiar with the deep web or even the dark web will know what I mean. On the other hand, more users need a VPN because of downloading torrents. Nord, of course, anticipated this and prepared a specially tailored type of connection for this purpose. For our safety, it again goes through two separate servers. You should be aware that without VPN tunneling, your internet provider can see when you're using the peer-to-peer protocol and very often limits your bandwidth. It simply makes your connection slower. Unfortunately, none of the providers go to the trouble of checking whether you're illegally downloading the latest game, a Hollywood movie, or just downloading a system update, because those can travel exactly the same way. On the other hand, when you're connected to the network through a VPN, your provider can't see anything except encrypted data, so they won't limit your connection speed. Simply put, thanks to a VPN, downloading torrents is often several times faster than without it, and updates can also take much less time. You may have been using torrents for many years, and it might seem to you that everything is fine, at least so far. But if one day someone asks your provider for a record of your activity from this year or even from the previous year, what do you think? It will probably be hard to explain yourself out of that. Got him. That's why, if you're playing around with torrents, a VPN is pretty much a must. In the settings, you'll also find the option to enable threat protection. This feature blocks malicious domains already at the DNS level. This way, even if someone sends you a link to a dangerous site and you click on it, NordVPN will block those connections, and it won't allow malicious code to load. From the app menu on your smartphone, you can also activate another security feature called tap-jacking protection. This warns you when a malicious app takes over your screen using a specially crafted, transparent overlay. In Poland, these types of attacks, especially on banking apps, are becoming more and more common. That's why it's worth activating this option manually. Security is crucial and rarely questioned. However, VPN services are being detected. We also choose them because of the ability to stream Polish services abroad, which are normally blocked for residents of Germany, the Netherlands, Ireland, the United Kingdom, and basically everywhere outside of Poland. Services like TVN Player and TVP VOD, when connected through NordVPN, work without any problem, no matter where you are. Nord is also one of the few services that reliably allows you to unlock access to the richer American libraries of Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, Disney, HBO Max, and many others. But why would the American library be better, you might ask? Well, look, on Polish Netflix you have access to only about 3,400 titles. On the other hand, after connecting to any server in the USA, the library instantly expands to almost 6,600 titles. That's almost twice as many movies and series to choose from. So where's the fairness in that? What, you don't pay enough for Netflix? You don't pay enough for Disney or your other favorite streaming service? Despite rising fees in Poland, just like in many other countries, the library is heavily restricted. Stop being taken for a fool and connect through a VPN to the US library so you can fully enjoy what you're paying for. That's why an extremely important aspect when choosing the right VPN provider is the speed of its servers. Let's be honest, there's no point in fooling ourselves. But redirecting our internet traffic through a masked server located somewhere in a completely different country, elsewhere in the world, will always have some impact on the speed of our data transfer. When I first started using NordVPN many years ago, unfortunately it wasn't impressive in terms of speed. However, a lot has changed since then. Nord has made significant investments in development, which is why now their infrastructure is based on servers with a bandwidth of 10 gigabits per second. Competitors most often use servers that are 10 times slower with only 1 gigabit bandwidth. Before we check a few specific locations, I'll disconnect from the VPN, which will allow me to test the native speed of my internet connection. As you can see, at peak it reaches around 330 megabits per second with a 30 millisecond ping. Since I live in Ireland, I'll first check the automatically selected server for this country and repeat the test. We can see that the ping hasn't changed in any way, and the peak speed reported by the speedtest.net site exceeded 300 megabits per second. The upload speed in both cases is almost at the same level. You might think that what I have in Ireland is nothing like what is in Poland. That's why I asked my friend from Krakow to do the same test on his 1 gigabit fiber connection. After all, you can use one NordVPN account simultaneously on up to 6 devices, and no one here is chasing anyone for sharing it with your loved ones. To determine the baseline value, he also performed the first test without being connected to a VPN. And as you can see, it's still far from that maximum advertised speed of 1 gigabit. Next, he didn't even bother looking for the least loaded server in Poland, but quickly chose the automatic one and repeated the test. We can see that the ping is higher. After all, the data has to be encrypted on his computer and decrypted on Nord's servers, which does take a few extra milliseconds. However, the download speed amazed him. It's 34 higher. Why is that? How is that even possible? Well, internet providers can see what you're connecting to and have full control over the bandwidth they ultimately provide you. This means they can limit it however they want. When you're connected to a VPN, besides, as you already know very well, your data is encrypted, so the provider doesn't know what's inside it or where the connection is really going. This test also really shows what a premium service looks like, and without a doubt, this is an extremely good result, because there are still plenty of other providers out there, VPNs that struggle to even reach 70 and in some cases even 40 megabits per second. I assume that to a large extent, Nord's proprietary communication protocol called NordLynx helps achieve such good speeds. However, besides very efficient transfer and encryption, there's also something in it that I think no one ever mentions. Well, every single VPN app I've used on my smartphone caused the battery to drain faster, and honestly, that's completely understandable. After all our communication has to be encrypted. For a desktop computer processor, or even for a laptop, that's not too difficult a task. But a smartphone can really struggle with that. Most other VPN providers use a protocol called OpenVPN, or one that's based on it anyway. But that one was developed over 20 years ago. It's also very resource heavy and has over 70,000 lines of code. NordLynx, on the other hand, is a new protocol, streamlined by removing unnecessary processes and at the same time provides a higher level of security. On top of that, it has about 4,000 lines of code. As a result, we can achieve such high data transfer speeds with lower CPU load. And what does that mean? Using its services costs us much less energy. But let's get back to the tests. For those living abroad, access to Polish streaming services is more important. So we'll connect to a server in Poland. Even for streaming a high-quality 4K video stream, 25 megabits per second would be enough. Here we can see that the test ended with a result of 306 megabits, download 360.
6 megabitów pobierania.
We know why NordVPN has such a good reputation. Unlike many other providers, it won't slow down your connection that much. I also did a test to Indonesia, because why not? Here we can see that even with such distant servers, the download speed is still surprising. However, it's probably the American streaming services that we care about the most, so I choose a server on the East Coast and run the test again. The speed test runs like a dream, approaching the 300 megabits per second mark. Many Americans don't even have such a connection at home. Just one last test, but this time to a server in California, and bam! A value of 270 megabits per second. Alright, but how much does all this cost, you ask? Before I discuss this part, I'd like to let you know that, like with everything on the internet, you don't have to pay for a VPN at all. The internet is such a wonderful place that you can find a free alternative for almost everything. However, just because many VPNs are supposedly free doesn't mean we don't pay for them in another way. We can divide free VPNs into slow or painfully slow. On top of that, many of them keep their servers running by selling user data. Well, what can you do? That's apparently the world we live in now. NordVPN is a premium service. The user gets a fast, well-secured service, which means, well, it's not cheap, and the standard cost is about 47 zloty per month. But NordVPN has launched a dedicated campaign for viewers of the TechManiac HD channel, which gives you a 40% discount when you buy a 1-year package, and with a 2-year package, you'll pay 61% less. That one is definitely the most cost-effective. Then the monthly cost will be reduced from the mentioned 47 zlotys to just 12 zlotys and 47 groszy. What do you lose? You lose nothing. NordVPN is so confident in the value and effectiveness of the service they provide that if you change your mind for any reason, you have 30 days to get a full refund. You can use the service freely during this period without being charged for it. You can calmly and without any rush test it out, check if it works and how it works on each of your devices, but that's not all. If you want to take it a step further and get a bigger discount, right now it's 63 on the NordVPN Plus package, which also includes a password manager and a data leak scanner. It will verify your passwords, email addresses, and credit card information, and will suggest what you should change to secure your accounts even more. However, you'll get the maximum value with the highest discount, which is already 69% here, on the complete package that also includes a private 1 terabyte cloud. A cloud is nothing more than your dedicated space on a server. You can compare it to a 1 terabyte hard drive, except that it's encrypted and protected with an additional password. You have access to this drive from any device, even through a browser. On your computer, through the installed application, or even on your phone, also with a dedicated app. Anyway, see how easy it is to use. On my computer, I have a PDF document, which is my plane ticket. I'll upload it to the Documents section from my computer, and when I pick up my phone and log into the app, that ticket will be right where I put it. 1 terabyte of space is enough to safely store hundreds of thousands of your private photos or other data. It's also worth keeping a backup copy of your system in the cloud, because if your computer's hard drive fails, which, let's face it, does happen sometimes, you'll be prepared. Then the backup will be on the server, and after replacing the drive with a new one, you can recover everything that was on it before. The price for this service is actually incredibly good, although there is one catch: the size of a single file is limited to 3 GB. Of course, you can make backups. Every program lets you choose the size of individual segments. You can also store photos and other files there without any problem. The only problem might occur with very large video files. Alternatively, if you still care about them, you can compress them and also split them into 3 GB segments, but that's enough about the cloud. Also remember that your account can be used on 6 devices at the same time, so if you want to share a subscription with a friend or even a neighbor, nobody is going to make a problem out of it. As long as you don't mind sharing your password with someone else, you're the boss here after all. Go to NordVPN.com, NordVPN.com, TTMHD, which of course stands for TechManiac HG, to get up to 69% off. The clickable link is in the video description and the pinned comment.